In. Let's see how we go. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. Monster is the right word. My name is Josh Lloyd, and guys only want one thing. LeBron! I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Blue Sky, joshloyd.bsky.social, on Twitter at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Also, check out LockedOnDaily.com and find the best newsletter for your favorite NBA team. Sign up, get it delivered free into your inbox 5 days a week. Thanks for double banging and thumbing and commenting and all that stuff, and we're here live to get some questions going. All right, hello to everybody who is here. Let's get your questions going. We'll try to answer as many of these as we can. All right, Kenny, I was going to do that one. I'm sure we'll get to something a little bit more like that anyway, but Steve Starkies says, Brandon Williams, is he an ad on Dallas? He played okay for the Blazers last year. Yeah, he did. Was it last year or the year before? Anyway, he did have a little run in Portland. His shooting wasn't great, but he did put up big numbers. His situation, Brandon Williams, is very similar to the situation. Well, it's not very similar. It's literally exactly the same to the situation as Kai Jones in Dallas. He can't play every game. So he was really good last game. Here's my conundrum with Brandon Williams and the Mavs. It was a really good game from him. He has got, I'm just going to double check, 10 games remaining that he's able to play. And if they play him 10 consecutive games in a row, then there's going to be a 2-week period where he can't play before they're able to sign someone to a full-time contract. Do they sign him? Do they sign Jones? I don't know what they do. So he's going to be in and out. The problem is that this team yesterday was missing Dante Exum, PJ Washington, Caleb Martin, and Kai Jones. So if everyone is available, I'm not even sure that Williams, as much as they might need a point guard, who plays? Washington, Christie, Marshall, Dinwiddie, Thompson. There's 5 guys. Exum, Martin, Powell, Williams, Jones, Prosper, Edwards. That's 12 players. So there is no guarantee that even if they need Williams, and even if they're using him in one of his games, like, does he even play? Because yesterday was a situation where they had 4 other guys out. And who do they prefer to use? Edwards? Williams? Prosper? Like, what do they do? And they can't play him every game. So, is he an ad? No. Yes, but no. On specific days, if you know that there are certain spots and a lot of guys out, you do it. But as in terms of holding on to someone like a Brandon Williams, it's going to be a situation where you will get zeros because of the games played contract situation, but also because as much as we know that Dallas is banged up, they will have too many players and they won't play every game. They will have like 12 active players, and then somebody will just not play. So that makes it quite risky. And Exum can do a little bit of point guard work. Dinwiddie can handle. Max Christie will handle the ball a little bit as well. So it's not like they're completely bereft of point guard options. So we'll see. It's a tough one for me because of that contract situation. And then, I was trying to do the 240 game. I go, where does he fit in? Who doesn't play? Yeah, if there's injuries, that's a different story. But a lot of those guys might just literally play in the next game. All 4 of them might just play, and then you go, how does it all fit? And I don't know what the answer is. Kyle Prosky says, is Vince Williams worth an ad until Adama is healthy? I would say, and again, this is a mindset, Kyle, that we all need to get into at this point of the year. If you're looking at, do I add Vince Williams and use him? Will he be your worst player? Almost definitely yes. And if he is, then no. He's a guy that you add when they play, and you just maximize the roster spot. That's all you need to do. Because you look at it and you go, okay, well, that's great. I've got him and Jaren's out and I'll get Williams and he's providing okay numbers, not terrible numbers, okay numbers. And if I use him, though, and then move on to the next guy with a back-to-back, and the next guy with a back-to-back, and the next guy with a back-to-back, you're going to get way more value out of it. Again, we're going to do the streaming plan recap at the end of the week to show how those numbers worked and the idea of that. But this idea that I still get these questions a lot of, hey, do I add this guy or this guy? And the answer is no. Like, it's just you add how you get the games. If you can double up the games in a slot, That's going to be your W. That's how you're going to get the win, not from adding someone who's a fringy player like Vince Williams, who I like a lot, and just holding them for 3 games or 4 games. That doesn't really do it. How long is Malik Monk out for? I got no idea, mate. Well, guess we'll find out when updates come through. Joseph says, is Filipowski good enough to hold if he's your worst player in the playoffs? Joseph, absolutely not. And again, that comes back to it. Like, if your worst player is the 75th best player in a standard format, then that's probably worth a hold, right? Maybe we can even push it to 90 80 if you wanted, right? But again, you can usually turn a 3-game week from a player into 7, and that is so hard to overcome in terms of how good that player has to be to provide value. Think of that guy. We'll talk in fantasy points. If they score 40 points in 3 games, it's 120 points. Yeah? That just means that if you use that spot with 7 streams, those guys have to be averaging what? Is it 18 points or something? Is that what it is? It's about 18 points they need to average to give the same value. And you're going to get the occasional 25er, 30 off the waiver wire. It's just so hard to do. So just be very, very, very cautious of that idea of like, oh, he's great. I like him. And I do like Filipowski. And I actually think there might be a chance he is better than 75. So that's going to be dependent, of course, on how the other Jazz guys are available or not available. But in general, your worst player, as a usual rule, will just be able to be easily usurped by just adding extra guys in. As a general rule, yes. Is it possible to win a chip if your top 4 players get hurt till the end of the season, but you manage to pick up the right players from the wire? I think it's a good question, old man, and to see, because it's obviously frustrating to lose your best players. Is it possible? Sure. Is it difficult? Yes. I think there's a lot of circumstantial stuff there. Like, what about if your opponents lose their best 2 players and you're smart off the waiver wire? Absolutely. But yeah, it's going to be tough, but it can be done because you can have cold streaks, hot streaks, opponents get injured. One of the best things that could happen to you with one of your opponent is not their players getting hurt, but their players getting hurt 2 minutes into games. Because then they can't replace them. So they've just gone in there and they've used ads, they've used a move, and the day is done and you got 2 minutes out of it. Versus if they get injured the day before, they can drop, they can add somebody else in. That's your best case scenario. And it could happen, obviously. But yeah, it's not impossible, it's just bloody tough, isn't it? Danger is, do I think Jordan Hawkins will produce a decent amount of threes and points the rest of the week in his chunks? He's got 3 games the rest of the week. Bruce Brown's probably going to sit. CJ's probably going to sit. Zion's probably going to sit. Kelly Olynyk's probably going to sit. So you're probably in 3 games going to get, let's say, 75 minutes out of Jordan Hawkins. Could you get 13 points a game on average, which is a conservative amount? Let's say 45 points and 8 threes in 3 games. Yep, and if that's 1 ad, that's a good use of 1 ad, yes? 45 with 8 threes, I like it. That's the way you think. Is Jordan Hawkins very good? Is he a great fantasy contributor? Is he even a top 200 guy? Probably not. But if you get 3 games versus, say, a Washington Wizard player, so I talked about this, I tweeted it out, I said, hey, don't get overexcited about the Wizards guys. A, they played the Jazz, so Keyshawn George, Bub Carrington, Alex Sarr, even Justin Champagny, Chris Middleton, all had huge games against the Jazz. And now they play 1 more game for the rest of the week. So would you rather hold on to a mid-contributor like Sarr, Bub, Keyshawn, Kispert, whoever it is, and get 1 game, or triple it up and get Alvarado, Makovic, Olynyk, Brown? Olynyk and Brown aren't great examples because they'll probably only play twice. Hawkins, and that 3-1. Or, if you stream that spot, you can get 4 games out of it. 4 versus 1 is an absolute no-brainer. Do I think Mark Williams will get shut down at some point? The shutdown stuff is incredibly overdone. It's incredibly... it gets talked about way too much. It gets overhyped. It gets over-talked about. And yeah, like, players will eventually succumb to an injury with a few weeks left in the season. That ends the year, likely. And there's going to be some bits of shenaniganizing. But I think that part of the problem that people talk about with tanking and with shutdowns is that they invent situations that didn't necessarily happen, or they're so like hyper-focused on it waiting to happen that it never ends up happening. So could Mark Williams get shut down? Sure. Might it happen on the 2nd of April? Maybe. I don't know. And for a lot of this stuff, now the ones that I've been very adamant with was Utah, all through draft season, all through now. That's obvious. They've done that, and they're doing it right now. And I thought Portland had a chance to do it again, and they actually might be right now with Jeremy Grant. They might be doing that. I don't know. But otherwise, everyone else is just playing. So just don't think you need to make any decisions based on something that literally just may not happen and it might not happen for 4 weeks. So I don't think you need to do anything about that. What do I think about Ayton coming back? The Mavs are falling apart and Portland is a game behind Phoenix. I think that there's a chance, but also, Josh, I don't think that Ayton coming back or not coming back is got to do with tanking. So I think it's a serious injury. So he is out from a significant calf strain. What do they give, a 4-week reevaluation timeline? I think that he probably doesn't come back just because the injury is that bad. I don't think that, and we'll see where we go when we get there. He could come back. He very easily could, but I think the injury is going to be significant enough that he's available maybe in April, and that's going to be no good for most people in fantasy, would be my guess. Joe, I don't know the answer. Again, the shutdown term is going to get banned soon on this show because I just hate it. It just annoys me so much. But anyway, do I think the Jazz shut down Lauri, Walker, Collins sooner rather than later? No idea. And from past examples with the Jazz, they would do this stuff. We would know that these guys weren't going to play, and it would take until like the 28th of March, and they'd say, yeah, he's not coming back this season. They just keep ruling them out. So I don't know. I don't think that they are done yet. Kessler is going to play games. I am pretty sure that Markkanen and Collins even, I think will play games next week, maybe even on Sunday, I think they play. I think they're going to play some games. I would say that the pattern at this point is they're going to sit out the games against the bad teams. I'm very confident of that. And then you're going to get to a stage mid-March, 20th of March, 15th of March, where you just don't see them again, is my guess. But that's a complete guess. I don't know at this stage at all. Because why would I? Because they're not telling me. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Basketball season. It's heating up. Yeah, it's hot actually. So there's no better way to get in on the action than with Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With Prize Picks, you just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. It's easy to do. It's available in over 30 states. You can mix and match your projections across different sports as well. So easy to do. You pick your different players. You can go with like points for Luka. You can even chuck LeBron in there with his rebounds or his assists. Mix them up together, and you can set your lineups in under 60 seconds. Maybe you can take a little bit more time, though, just to really narrow it down. But you can do that, and when you win, your fast payouts, well, they come in as little as 15 minutes. There's extra deals as well, like the Taco Tuesday, where Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25%, giving even more value to your lineup. Download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code LOCKEDONNBA for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, we should go into the next group of questions. Any PG-13 updates? David said. Well, he's out today. No shock there. He's dealing with a, what do they call it? Groin soreness. He's out for groin soreness. Of course he is, but I don't know what that means. Is it going to turn into a groin strain? I am almost certain it will. I do not know why teams continually do this, but we will see what they do in terms of his injury. I still believe, despite that questionable tag, that he is going to be at real risk of not playing, but I don't know that. That is a made-up scenario for me. Just the way that we saw it happen, the way that we've seen it happen, the way the Sixers are going, the comments from Nurse all make me think they're going to try and just maneuver a couple little things and plausible deniability, all that sort of stuff. And I do think that we are going to get an absence from Paul George, but I don't know. But Paul George is out today. Yes, that is correct, and that is all we know at this stage. How do you go about balancing trying to maximize the value of a streaming spot when you also get hit with random injuries throughout a matchup? I'm not really sure how to answer this or exactly what you mean with this. Like, how do you maximize that? Well, if you get a random injury in a matchup, well, that just opens up another streaming spot, doesn't it? And then it means that a guy that you may have streamed in who's a better value you hold, and then that injured spot turns into a streaming spot. So streaming is always going to be, look, the name of the game in points leagues more so. This is the name of the game in points leagues. Get me minutes in games. Realistically, just get me minutes. There are two. I've done all these correlations for multiple years, and I'll continue to do them, and we look at them. And the tightest correlation between value is between fantasy points and minutes and fantasy points and usage. And then the next ones are like assists and turnovers in category leagues and points and turnovers in category leagues and that sort of stuff to see like, hey, if your points go up, your turnovers go up, like very tightly. If your assists go up, your turnovers go up. But the most tight one is minutes and fantasy points and usage and fantasy points. So that's what you want. High usage players playing a lot of minutes. So just make sure that when you're looking at that sort of stuff, like streaming is the value you have. So if someone gets hurt, you just got to pivot to a new streaming thing, and the guy that you may have held and may have streamed in, maybe you hold him, and you just pivot that thing. But you've always got to be just bulking in games. What's with Ja Morant? Is he even top 50 next year's draft? He will, because he's Ja Morant. People will take him there. I will not do that. In category leagues, he's not even really close to that. Points leagues, I think he's got the chance, though, to slide in leagues, Morant, and be somebody who does return. Because obviously he's had way better seasons than this, and he's going to be maybe a little bit of a steal later on, but that's probably about it. No idea where Dyson goes in next year's draft. My guess would be, Joel, he gets overdrafted because people don't understand the way that steals can be overrated in category leagues, and that there is gigantic variance in those numbers, and somebody will probably mistakenly take him in round 3, is my guess, and that is just too much. Thank you, Judd. That is the term I was looking for. A person from a certain place is a demonym. Because yesterday I was trying to ask that question, and people were responding with, no, actually someone from Utah is called a Ute, which they're not. They're Utah, and I was correct with that. A demonym. That is the word. Thank you. I knew there was a real word for it. Appreciate that. All right. How interested should we be in Klay Thompson? Not really. Fine. He's a points and threes guy. He was very good in the last game. He took 1 million shots. He did nothing else. But when PJ Washington comes back, that will take shots away. And then Klay will sort of sit around, and they're going to lose games. They're going to lose a lot of games, and they're not going to push 35-year-old Klay Thompson to play big minutes in those games. So I think that he still remains like a fringy sort of a guy. Sabonis is to be reevaluated in less than a week with a grade 1 hammy. What sort of time frame would you give a Sabonis return? How much longer we have JV value? Ricky, here's the thing about this question, right? He's going to be reevaluated in less than a week. Yeah, I think that we're talking 2-week absence for Sabonis in total. So if we're reevaluated in a week, then it'll be like he's returned to play, condition, and it'll take another week. I think it should be 3 weeks. NBA is idiotic with this, so they'll push it to 2. I think it'll be back in 2. The second part of your question, I think, is more of a philosophical and overarching idea. It's like, how much longer will we have JV value? And I say this kindly, and I know it's going to sound very rude, but who cares? Who cares? Honestly, you have value with Jonas Valanciunas until you don't. And I think at times when we're playing fantasy, we put our focus on the wrong things. Oh, but what if this happened? Who cares? When it happens, you can deal with that. Valanciunas has value now. It's great value right now. And when we get the news that the value is done, well, then we move on from it. It's easy as that. What you should be looking at is, okay, what do I do? What do I do in the meantime? That's sorted. Valanciunas is there. He is sitting. He is playing. And this goes for anybody. Any player, whoever it is. Or excuse you, he's Valanciunas. He's sitting there and he's playing. And he's getting his numbers and it's great. So what do I do in the other spots? Who's my guy that I drop? How do I maximize games? Hey, I've got a roster spot here. I can get 5 games in and lose someone who plays 2 and stream in, and let's find the right players. Oh, this guy might have a real pop-off opportunity. Let's try him in there as well and do that. And then when the Valanciunas spot opens up because Sabonis is back and Valanciunas is playing 14 minutes off the bench, then you cut him and that position switches to a streaming spot. So trying to worry about when it's going to happen, who cares? Again, I don't mean that to be flippant or rude, but just don't worry about it. It's not in your control. You can't do literally anything with it. You've just got JV, and it's great. Do something different. Find the next way to get an advantage, because you've got that advantage already. It's there. You're done. You're set. It's sorted. Don't worry about it. No, Christian, no reseeding in Locked On Fantasy Basketball playoffs. It's a bracket. Do I think Trey Murphy will be shut down? Judd, come on, man. Do I think he'll be shut down? Probably not. Do I think he will miss time in April? Yes. But I don't know. What I would be doing with these situations, right? I have been very clear on this, and I'll continue to be very, very straightforward on this. I would have tried to bail on John Collins and Lauri Markkanen in November and December. Everyone else, I just use them, and if they do get shut down, I drop them. That's it. I'm not preemptively doing anything with it. There's no point trying to guess because you don't know. You just get what they're doing. You like it. And if you hear something nonsense going on, you go, that's annoying. But I think we're going to be, most of the time, we're going to be pretty good. We're going to be safe for most of this. Will Zach Collins next to Vooch in the start? Almost no. I don't think people understand that Zach Collins has been terrible all season for San Antonio. He had some really good games. And I would be incredibly shocked if they were, our rookie, Matas Buzalis, who we put in the style up, can you be benched so that our third string center can play power forward? That'd be great. Just go and sit down, man. I know people have picked up Zach Collins and they're very happy with what he's doing, but sometimes this wish casting of what a role is going to be is just not a realistic thing. So Zach Collins, Vooch is out again today, so we're good. Collins is probably going to start again. He's going to be fine. We've seen the numbers dip almost every game after a couple of big ones. Look, they've been good still, but they're just slowly dropping. There's almost, maybe I'm wrong, but there's almost zero chance that we get Zach Collins playing 30 minutes as a starting power forward. That is just almost zero shot to me. What is my take on what's going on with Poole in Washington? Is he worth keeping? Yes. He's the only guy out of those Wizards guys that I would keep through this one game in 4 nights. What's going on? I think they played 2 terrible teams. So he did have an injury, but they sort of just kept him out of those games. I think he'll be back. I'm not worried about him necessarily, and I would keep him. He's been good enough to do that. We'll come back, get more of your questions in because I've got to do this thing now because today's episode, it is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. When an NBA game tips off, well, the NBA action is just getting started and there's no better place to get in on that action than with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you miss the opening tip or you want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback or chuck in a total and you think this game's crazy, everyone's hitting every shot. Maybe the live total line looks too high. Actually, think there could be cold streaks coming. You can do all that over on FanDuel, and you can combine those live bets into a same-game parlay as well. Right now, new FanDuel customers get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. You just need to go to FanDuel.com to join today. That is FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA, and don't forget to gamble responsibly. All right, let's get into some questions. Gil says, would I still recommend third round reversal for 12-team leagues? Yeah, why wouldn't I? Yes, absolutely I would. And I think you probably need to go further. To be honest, I don't know what would have changed in anyone's mind to suggest that isn't a good idea this season. I think that you're almost better off doing every round reversal, whatever that, like making it whoever picks first in round 1 picks last in every other round. That almost ends up fairer, to be honest. And nothing would suggest to me that you shouldn't be doing that. What's the strangest food that I've ever eaten? I don't go for strange foods. It's not the thing. I am adventurous, so to speak, but I don't need to be eating here's donkey dick or something. I don't need to do that. I'll eat different flavors and any of that sort of stuff, but that stuff, not a strange meat guy. Does Kris Dunn keep up his production? Karch, I'm going to use this as an example to talk about something because that's an interesting question, isn't it? Because I bet if someone had asked me this question 24 hours ago, they'd go, man, what am I doing? Kris Dunn's terrible. I've got to drop him. But he had a great game yesterday. He had a stinker the game before. And our opinions flip like that in one day. Can Kris Dunn keep it up? Well, can he keep up what he did yesterday? Maybe not. Can he keep up what he did the day before? Definitely, because he was terrible. Can he keep up a baseline idea of what he's been doing, especially while Norm Powell's out? Yeah, why not? He's going to start irrespective of Powell being there or not. He will just be a starter, and that's what's happening. Will the floor drop out a little bit? Will it just be lowered? Sure. That's also most likely when Powell comes back. But which Dunn are you talking about? Wednesday Dunn or Tuesday Dunn? Because obviously they're very, very different. The general consensus here is just look at what he's been doing 2-3 weeks. It's pretty solid. It's pretty good. I like it. We use it. It's a good little run. They've also got one of the best schedules next week, the Clippers, because there's a 12-game Monday. They play 4 games next week, but they don't play on Monday. So they've got 4 games, not including Monday, including the only team to have a Tuesday, Wednesday back-to-back. So we're pretty happy with it. No real news on PJ Washington and his return. I hope it's soon, but obviously he hurt his ankle, came back, aggravated it, and is out again. Maybe he is back. I don't know. How much does Zach Collins' value drop if Vooch returns? How much does Zach Collins' value, honestly, could become 0? I know you'll say, how is that possible? Because literally, the game before Vooch was injured, Zach Collins played 0 minutes. He was the third string center. I don't know that he goes back to the third string center, but somebody is going to be out of the rotation. Is it him? Is it Jalen Smith? Because Pat Williams is returning, and Buzelis is there, and Julian Phillips is getting minutes. So he could literally go back to 0 minutes. So how much does his value drop? It could be a ton. If it's not, he just plays 20 minutes off the bench, and is not going to be anywhere close to useful for 12s. Do I have anyone helping you manage the leagues? I do it all by myself. I do it all by myself. I'm going to be getting Karan, hopefully, to help me on some of the stuff with the playoffs, but otherwise I do it all myself. What's my outlook on Dante the rest of the season? I'm not really sure how to ask or answer that. That's Dante DiVincenzo. Good, or pretty good. I think he's going to start rest of the season. I think what we need to do is look at values of guys and go, is Dante DiVincenzo going to be good enough to hold and not stream through? Yes. Does it matter if he's 30, 40, 50, 60, 70th? No. Do I think he's going to be good enough to hold through that? Yes. That's, I think, all we need to know about that. Danger is, you asked the question again that we talked about earlier, Scoot or Collier, rest of season 9 categories. The answer, if you're asking that question, is neither. And that's because if that is your worst player and you're deciding who do I have off the waiver wire, the answer is nobody. You just use that spot to get 7 games into that roster slot instead of 3 or 4 from those guys who can be very up and down, and production and minutes and shots can all be all over the shop. So the answer is no. It's neither. It's both. It's whoever is playing the most games at this particular time. That's how you should look at that. Matas Buzelis is absolutely not a 10-team league. Like, not even remotely close to it. Not near that at all. Not near it. A Sexton and Sarr drops for streaming. Yes, absolutely, they are drops for streaming purposes in the playoffs. 100%. I know that Sarr had a very good game yesterday, but he hasn't been having good games. They play one game in the next 4 nights, and you can just do better there, I think, most of the time. Again, that's going to depend. Do you actually need the extra games this week? Then maybe you do Holden Sarr. And you go, let's see, has he figured it out? Or was he playing the Jazz? He shot 67% of that game, so that's not going to hold. But, it's all, everything that I say here is about talking about individual circumstances with players, with teams, with your squad. Where are you in the standings? Where are you in your playoff journey? Are you just cruising? You're on a bye? Like, all that stuff needs to be individually decided. SF227 is a double Onyx. Good for you, mate. That's, I know you're taking the piss. So am I. I'll give you the double Onyx stinger here. Do I think the Cavs starters will start playing bench minutes the rest of the season? No, I don't. There will be games where they have limited minutes. They've been getting limited minutes all season. Do I think that they're just going to start playing 20 minutes a night? Absolutely no way. They will have games where they go 27, 28, 30, 35, 25. There'll be some individual game rests, but it won't be like they're just rolling 20 minutes where you got to drop them. No, that will not happen. I'm very, very confident in that. MLB and PGA, I don't know what that means. What are you answering there? I just saw that question. What fantasy sports do you like taking up during the NBA offseason? I don't play any fantasy sports in the offseason. I might be playing some fantasy baseball this season, but I'm not sure. But usually I take just time off and try and chill and get myself ready for the next season, and still do shows here a lot. Neptune, this is where I think we can differentiate what we do on this show. Alex Sarr, thoughts? I just added him. Category League. You don't get the game that he just played. He doesn't play until Saturday, one game next 4 nights. He won't be that good every game. And now you have just locked up a roster spot where you can't use it for 3 of the next 4 days. And if you're in the regular season and you don't need to win this week, totally okay to do it. But if you are in a battle where you need to win, that is a bad move. You do not get Alex Sarr's last game. Reacting to one game thinking, and when every other game has been mid, without taking context into it as well as his stuff, is a surefire way to just be always one step behind. You're always going to be one step behind if you act this way all the time. So, I think Alex Sarr's a good player. I think he's still going to be probably the best rookie out of this class. He's had very big struggles this season, but it's all about individual context at this point. And you have to really, really pay attention. Because if you don't, a manager with a team that you look at and you go, how did this team beat me? Well, they were just smarter about getting games in at the right times. All right. We still got some time here. What am I doing here? Do I like fishing? Absolutely not. I think I've gone fishing once when I was 7 years old. Not for me in the slightest. Not even close. Where would I rank Jimmy Butler value in 12-team points league rest of the season? Does his value drop significant once Kuminga returns? Mando, his value's already dropped. It's not good at the moment. I would have a look at what Jimmy has done over the last 2 weeks and go, that's not a bad estimation of what he's going to do. Does it impact when Kuminga returns? Probably a little bit. So I would say Jimmy is in the bottom half of players on your team in a fantasy league, and I don't really see a huge amount changing. Is Jabari Smith worth a hold? I don't know why you would do that. Nope. No chance that I would do that. Can I give us a quick lotto redraft? No, Long John Silver, because I just don't have it in front of me. It's going to take a lot. I'm not just I'm not someone who comes in and just be like, oh, here's off the top of my head. I'll sit down and do it. I'll probably do a whole show on it, honestly, through the off season, just to really sit down and think about that stuff. Do I think Lonnie Walker is an add in a 16-team 9K league? That'd probably be the only time where I'd consider Lonnie Walker. There's a lot of players out, but remember this. Lonnie Walker is a horrific fantasy player. He's a guy that if he played 26 minutes a night, might not even be a top 200 guy. It's, to me, still going to be very schedule dependent. He might play 25 minutes a night, but he's an inefficient scorer who doesn't take volume threes, who gets no rebounds, assists, steals, or blocks. He's just not good at all from a fantasy perspective. So I can see it. I'd like to know what other options you've got. I can see it, Mr. 101, but it's still Lonnie Walker, and it's going to depend on a lot of other individual circumstances. Swish Supreme, what do you think is the best way to incentivize managers who are out of playoffs to stay engaged in the season? It's a really tough thing to do because that's a natural human inclination. We're out of the playoffs. Like, what am I going to do? What am I playing for here? The way to do it is if this is a long-term, or not the way to do it, maybe this works, maybe it doesn't. This is a long-term league, managers return every season. You create some sort of incentive in terms of draft slot next season. Hey, if you finish the first spot out of the playoffs, if you push into that, you get your choice of draft pick next season. And then the second team gets their second choice or whatever it is. Do it that way. That might be it. Monetary. Hey, if you finish last, you have to pay your entry fee again. Double it up. They're probably the easiest two things to do. Make that so that the final standings position means something for the draft next season, or give them a monetary penalty if it's such a big deal. Would you drop Max Christie or Klingon to add Asar in 9-cat? I would drop Max Christie for Asar Thompson, really without too many questions. Yeah, no problem with that. Would I consider Dennis Schroder as an add in a 9-cat 12-team league? Kawhi, always me. Good question, because it's going to be on people's minds, because they're going to see what happened last game, aren't they? Remember, just all I ask in these scenarios is cast your eye back a game before, 2 games before, 3 games before. It was a very good game from Schroder. I would absolutely not add Schroder there. Now, that is because Tobias Harris was out. And Harris out means everything shifts. Asar moves down a position. Malik Beasley moved to the bench. So, no, not in a million years would I consider Schroder anything more than, hey, I need a stream for today. The Pistons are playing. Let's try it. That is it. I cannot see any scenario in the world where Dennis Schroder has a top 80 role rest of season. There is just no way that happens. Maybe there is. There's not. Maybe there is. Mika, Disturbed, Rainman, there is no way you're serious. Do I add triple-double Kevin Porter Jr.? Why? Okay, if you want to lose, go ahead. You're talking about a game where they won by like 40 points against the Dallas Mavericks, where he did all his damage in garbage time and scored 10 points, playing 26 minutes, where the starters played 24 each. Context is important. If you are just looking at the individual totals at the end of a game, it's going to really confuse you. And I'm glad you asked the question, Mika, but no, I have no interest in adding Kevin Porter in 10 or 12-team leagues because, again, context on these things are important. If you add him, you know what you don't get? You don't get the triple-double. It doesn't come onto your stats and the context around it. Maybe all these things, weird things can happen in the NBA. Maybe Doc Rivers goes, Kevin Porter didn't really know what he was about. He's a triple-double guy. Let's play him 30 minutes. Maybe Doc thinks that. It would seem crazy to me that he would think that, but maybe he does. But the general idea is we are talking about a game where they won by 40. He played through the fourth quarter. He scored 10 points still and put up big numbers. But you are talking about the team's 8th man. Realistically, not something that's going to work. Realistically. Long John Silver, I almost didn't answer this question because he used the term stocks, which of course is an embarrassing term that should never be uttered. And I just said it and I feel pretty disgusting about it. Why are they so high this season? I actually don't have any idea. Steals started, I don't know. I don't know if blocks are. I'd need to check that. I know blocks had a big elevation last season because Chet and Wemby entered the league. And when you get 2 guys blocking shots at that level, the overall block numbers are going to rise. Steal numbers are through the roof this season, and I don't really know why. What I do think it is that because, and despite what idiot screaming old heads will tell you, I'm an old head, I'm an idiot, I'm screaming, but I'm a different class of old head idiot screaming. Despite what those idiots that would tell back in my day, the league's ruined, the people who never watched the game in their life will tell you, the reason is because guess what? Teams play defense. And teams have sat and they've schemed all of this stuff and they go, we need to figure out a way to do our best on defense because it's bloody hard given the spacing, the shooting, the talent, the handles, all this stuff around the league. So we need to do things. So you know what they're doing now? They are attacking up higher. They are getting to the pick and roll guy. They're getting to the ball handler higher. They are putting more pressure on the ball to create more of that chaos, to generate those turnovers, because they're like, if we just play passive stuff, they're going to cook us with spacing and shooting, so we need to put the pressure up higher. We need to force them into earlier and bad decisions to get those steals. That was something that teams obviously worked on through the offseason, and that has happened all the way through. It started out with incredible steal numbers, and it's maintained. And I know Caitlin Cooper did a lot of work on this. You can have a look at her data. It was from like a month ago, maybe she published it, talking about the average distance where ball handlers get picked up and where pick and rolls get set, and it's like 4 or 5 feet, maybe it's not that far, maybe 3 feet further out from the paint than where it's been in the past, because teams are just putting that pressure on earlier to try and generate chaos, turnovers, and not enable teams to be as set in their ways. That's what I think. I think that's right. Aldo, what AFL team? Welcome to the show for the first time. I am a Western Bulldogs fan and always have been and always will be. So there you go. We're off to I'm sure we're going to have a very, very, very poor start to the season. I hope not, but we'll see. All right, we'll do one more question. I think we'll get out of here. You went from Dinwiddie to LaMelo to Sabonis. Playoff start March. I assume you did trades here. March 17th. How did I do? March 17th, what is it now? 10 days away. You got Sabonis from traded Dinwiddie to get to Sabonis. Evan, I think it's a W. I think Sabonis will be back then. It's obviously a clear upgrade. And if you're fine for playoffs, then you're fine. You're fine. Seems like a W to me. What else can we do? We got one more question. Let's do one more. Here we go. This is a good one. I'll do one more after this. Yawn Paul asks, should we disable eliminated teams to be able to pick up playoffs before the playoffs? During the playoffs, absolutely. There is no reason for teams that are eliminated from the playoffs to be making waiver moves. Unless, like I talked about earlier with the incentivization, if you're trying to incentivize teams and you're creating a scenario where you have decided that you're making a consolation bracket and the winner of that bracket gets the choice of draft pick, which is a way to go about it. I don't really believe you should do that. But if that's the way you go about it, then all pickups are possible. If you're in a dynasty league, you should never, ever block a team from making pickups. Never. If a team gets eliminated, you should never block them from getting pickups in any dynasty or keeper format. But if it's a regular redraft and you're not doing any consolation bracket, which again, I usually just don't think you should do, then no. Teams in playoffs make no moves. They get blocked. Before the playoffs, once they're mathematically eliminated, I don't have a problem with them making moves. As long as it's not like, hey, I'm dropping LeBron to add Taylor Horton-Tucker. That's insane. Like, that's obviously gets reversed, and then you block all their moves from then on out. But otherwise, that's what I would do. I have no interest in holding on to Bol. Bol is a bad player. He's not a good real-life player. He will have some good games. They'll move back to him. They'll start him. If you want to hold him, right, like playoffs start next week, you've got at least a couple of days here to see a sample size of what's going on, to see another opportunity. Do they start him in the next game and play him 25? Then you're worth holding. So in that case, hold, wait, see how they deploy him. Otherwise, all you do there, if you're in the midst of a battle right now, you need games. I would not take that risk on a player who's actually terrible and gets, for some reason, fetishized across all of the NBA landscape. I don't know. Alex, I can't. This is just for your personal knowledge. How could I possibly win this? Who's sneaky blocks guys? I don't know who's available in your league. But every day, if you haven't seen it, Alex, every single day, I do a show that is a streaming show. And I highlight guys who are good for blocks, who are available on many different sides waiver wise. So maybe check those shows out and you'll see just an array of names. But there's guys like, Luke Cornett. He's going to start today. There's no Porzingis and Horford. He's going to put up numbers. Nemesh Cater will do it. There's going to be somebody that comes out of sort of nowhere to block shots. But you just got to have a look to see where the opportunities lie. I think that might wrap us up. It will. Appreciate you guys being here. That's great. I always enjoy these interactions. Some of these stuff that I talk about, and I do use people's questions as examples to get points across, because we do hear the same sort of things at times with different examples. And I think the idea of getting strategy through is really important, because we still have these like, who do I, this guy. Doesn't matter. If you're making the decision between your worst player and someone on the wire, the answer is none of them. It's just whoever is playing that very moment. Or this, what do I do? Should I worry? No, because that doesn't do any good, does it? Doesn't do any good. Focus your energies on the right thing. Focus your time and your research into who is the guy that's going to help you. Who's got an actual chance to be one of my 8 or 9 best players? And that guy's a guy we hold on to. And then where's the value bump? This guy, can he be that guy, Valanciunas, be a top 7 player on my team for the next 2 weeks? Sure. And then after that, we move on. But we know where everyone sits. We know the hierarchy on our team. We know the value. But most importantly, know the value. 7 is greater than 3. So if you can turn a roster spot with 3 games into 7 games, it almost doesn't matter. It does, but it almost doesn't matter who the player is. Because 7 is going to be bigger than 3. To a degree. Not talking about Jokic. I'm talking about any of your bottom 3 or 4 players. If they're playing 3 games and you can stream in 7, that's going to be better. So that is where we're at with that. Hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up, hit the double bang. More importantly, though, double bang on the positivity. Positivity towards yourself, towards your friends, towards your family, towards your partner. Keep things rolling. Do good things. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.